magagawa pa tayo. Sumali at makialam para sa ating bayan. Isigaw mo, Bakit na Pinas? Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Isigaw mo, Bakit na Pinas? Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Kaya natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Bakit na Pinas? Lagi magparehistro para makaboto dahil Bakit na Pinas? Kaya pang magbago, may magagawa. Kaya pang magbago, may magagawa pa tayo. Sumali at makialam para sa ating bayan. Isigaw mo, Bakit na Pinas? Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Isigaw mo, Bakit na Pinas? Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Kaya natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Bakit na Pinas? Lagi magparehistro para makaboto dahil Bakit na Pinas? Kaya pang magbago, may magagawa pa tayo. Sumali at makialam para sa ating bayan. Isigaw mo, Bakit na Pinas? Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Isigaw mo, Bakit na Pinas? Kaya magparehistro para makaboto para sa bukas natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino. Kaya natin to. Kaya natin to. Bakit na Pinas? Bakit na Pinas? Lagi magparehistro para makaboto dahil Bakit na Pinas? Kaya pang magbago, may magagawa pa tayo. Sumali at makialam para sa ating bayan, isigaw mo Lakita Pinas. Kaya magparehistro para makaboto, para sa bukas natin to. Lakita Pinas. Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino, kaya natin to. Isigaw mo Lakita Pinas. Kaya magparehistro para makaboto, para sa bukas natin to. Lakita Pinas. Atin ang isulong pagbabago Pilipino, kaya natin to. Kaya natin to. Lakita Pinas. Lakita Pinas. Lagi mong pare.
Because we know how much you wanted to get the right information, we give it to you right here. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Accessible through your YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Caritas News on the go.
Good morning. This is another episode of Caritas News on the Go. I am Jing Ray Henderson. Over the last few weeks, we have seen how devastating were the effects of COVID-19 pandemic to India. We would like to be able to share with you what is our counterpart in the country is doing to help the affected population. Here with us this morning is Caritas India's Executive Director, Father Paul Munjali. Good morning, Father, and thank you for accepting our invitation despite it meant you waking up very early in India. Good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Jing. And thank you,
Okay, so
everyone.
yes, Father, how is the situation now, especially on COVID in India? Were there changes? We know that there is over like 26 million cases of COVID in India. Were there changes, or is it still worsening as we are seeing in the news?
Well, Jing, the COVID has affected all of us worldwide. And as all of you know, recently India was very badly affected. Rather, the second wave has been very deadly. As all of you know, that in the just recent past, per day cases were almost 400,000, and the death toll has been more than 4,000 people a day, which has been a terrible situation. But I am happy to tell you that the situation is improving considerably. Maybe the last day, 24 hours case reporter has come down to 200,000, which is a very, very, good information for us and something happy for us to leave behind. And also the death toll also is getting reduced, but not so considerably. Maybe it may take another couple of weeks because, the admitted cases in the hospital with a bad situation, they continue. So certainly we hope and believe that the situation will improve because the governmental systems, the medical community fraternity, and also people around the world, and most so importantly, people in the country are all praying together and also doing a lot of good work, to support the patients who are affected. And that is resulting in the reduction of the number of patients as well as the number of reduction in the number of death cases as well. The situation of oxygen supply has improved considerably because of the supplies that come from other countries, and also more supplies from within the country. So this, and also the bed strength has been also enhanced in many medical institutions with a more oxygen supply system, more oxygen concentrators, and uninterrupted supply of medicines as well. So this is the situation at the moment.
Thank you, Father. And it's good to know that you have an improving situation in COVID. But how is Caritas India as an organization now? I have heard that several of your staff were also affected by COVID. And how are you coping? And also, how are you responding at the same time?
It's true that many of our staff also were affected, but then we are working from home, and our staff, as usual, has been wonderful. Sometimes, coming forward back at home, in spite of their COVID situations, ready to chip in and do the kind of services needed. And along with the staff, we have a very good strength of volunteers working along with us. So that makes the difference. So the church leadership, our church systems, and our partners at the ground, like we have 174 dioceses in the country, Catholic dioceses. So all the dioceses have social work systems like Diocesan Caritas, and we are pretty much connected at the grassroots community level. So that is one of our major strengths. So putting together all these pieces, we have started responding in a big way to address this particular issue. So what we have started is beginning with the first level treatment centers. First level treatment center is the concept of taking care of the mild and moderate patients because of the paucity of beds in the hospital. So with the support of the medical team, always this is attached with the medical facility or in another place, but of course supported by the medical team. We take care of the mild and moderate COVID patients in the first level treatment centers, providing all the kind of services needed to support the patients and the healthcare workers. Moving on, the second area is establishing second level treatment centers. Second level treatment centers are supporting mainly the extreme COVID cases, but these SLTCs are always located within a hospital facility, but giving additional services and creating additional infrastructure with the help of ventilators, help of oxygen and uninterrupted supply systems. So, and that takes care of the extreme cases of COVID patients. So second level treatment centers is another important step that we have initiated with the help of medical institutions. Catholic Church in the country, we have 3,000 medical facilities, small hospitals, medium and large hospitals. So all our medical facilities are put into the services of providing the COVID cases, and many of them are converted at the moment as COVID hospitals. So that is where Caritas India is collaborating with the medical institutions and other Catholic organizations working in the sector. Like we have Catholic Hospital Association of India. We have a medical kind of health services provided, rather coordinated by the Catholic Bishops' Conference directly under a commission. So all of us come together regularly and then review the situation and also work together with the medical facilities in the country. And we also collaborate with the government institutions. You know that India is mostly in the rural villages, so that the COVID situation is also rapidly spreading across to the rural areas. So we are mostly focusing in the 2-tier and 3-tier cities and the rural areas. So along with the services we are providing through second level treatment centers and first level treatment centers, we are equally focusing on the home based care support system, because that's also very important. When somebody is affected with COVID in the family, all others are also likely to be affected. So we are creating isolation centers within homes and then providing the kind of services that is needed for them, along with the telemedicine support systems. So connecting the patients and the family with the medical facility and medical consultation also is very important at this point of time, to get the medical advisory and accordingly taking care of their health situation and managing themselves within the family, so that this considerably reduced the patient load in the medical institutions. Yeah.
That's a wonderful, but a lot of work that you're doing in India, Father. And I don't know how, if it's appropriate to say congratulations but thank you for the work that you've been doing, especially also that not only India, Caritas India, and then the whole of your government is also helping other governments, especially with the vaccines that are made in India. So you're actually providing also help despite the fact that that you have so much also going on in the country. What lessons did the pandemic taught you, and of course with Caritas India, in terms of designing humanitarian programs? Because you have typhoons, you have flooding, you have everything in India, but this is something that all of us is experiencing anew. So what this pandemic taught you?
Every emergency is very different. It has its own unique nature, and it has its own ramifications in the society. And every pandemic, every disaster teaches new lessons. And more so, this particular emergency of pandemic COVID has also taught us many lessons in terms of how to get into a very strong multi-stakeholder approach. This particular pandemic COVID has been also a lesson that has taught us to more look into the health situation of the people, because health is something very important. A country like India with the 1.3 billion population, what is more important is to really develop, or rather revamp and develop, the community health system. So we had already initiated something called community owned and managed health systems, which is primarily focusing on the behavioral change practices, and also helping the communities, rather empowering the communities to manage the health situation within the local area, for which we are coming with a concept along with the government on something called communitization in health. So that is something very important, maybe an area that we would like to graduate much more, and also see how we can closely work together with the medical institutions, because every pandemic, to address it more effectively, we need to have the right partnership, right spirit of a coordination, and a culture of working together. But then fortunately, our country, with the able leadership of our church leaders and the good coordination between these institutions, we have done something good job, I would say. But then many more things are to be done. Especially, we are also taking up, or rather joining the governmental efforts to make the vaccination more effective and more reaching out to the many more million population. The vaccination has reached between 150 to 160 million, so to as of now. But we have to go a long mile. So wherein we are also thinking in terms of supporting the governmental efforts in this vaccination drive.
Mhm. And looking in the future, what are your plans in terms of organizational development, in terms of even staff welfare? Because this is something really that's very close to our heart. It drives, it really provides us something to think about in terms of how we also provide maybe healthcare support to our staff, and even community preparedness. So, how do you see the future now?
There are two things that you asked me. One is concerning the staff welfare, something which we did for our staff because we believe that staff is our strength, and it's owned and managed by the staff. End of the day, the leadership is giving them that kind of support systems to manage the organization and its affairs. What we did first was to insure them, all of them, with a COVID package, so that if at all something happens to our own staff community, they will be socially securitized. That is something which we did, and then we introduced a system of working from home, so that the they are much reduced to the exposures and the chances of getting contracted, and also taking all other precautionary measures, so that they are protected, their life is protected and saved. And so much so, we were also equally concerned with their families as well. So the complete family is being insured, and that is another measure that we have taken. And we have done everything possible to protect the interest of our staff community, as well as we are also coming with a kind of insurance plan for the frontline health workers and volunteers working with Caritas India. So this is something which we have done for the staff. And preparedness, yes, but at the moment our main focus is on addressing to the issue, responding to the issue, so that we minimize the damage and bring more a kind of protective environment for the families. But then this is our commitment that as in all other emergencies we are in the process of preparing systems and measures for preparedness activities. We have been taught with many lessons in the past disasters. When the Kerala floods happened in 2018, we started, aftermath of this flood, something called disaster clinics. Disaster clinic is a concept of preparing the communities and enabling the communities to be the first responders, as well as also best communication channels of risk communication, and also spreading the message of protection and preparedness within the community, because we bank largely on the community wisdom and the community knowledge and the community capacity. So localization of the efforts in getting the community's preparedness is one of the largest agenda, as globally all the humanitarian organizations are very strongly engaged in the localization process. So this is something which we are taking as a kind of strong measure in our further journey of organization.
Father, we have been in contact with several organizations in India who are wanting to do a fundraising for Caritas India specifically. So I think we would be coordinating with you on this. And for the meantime, we would like to ask if you have any message to the Filipino people, especially on how we can come together and then be stronger in the face of this pandemic.
That's a very good and nice question, Jing. So my message is that see, we have a lot of appreciations to all of you, the Philippines and Filipinos, because you are beautiful people, wonderful people, people with a good heart, a heart that sees, as Pope Francis would tell us. So I think that is something which we need to really strongly keep with us, and grow further with a heart that sees. A heart that sees is open to everything that is happening around us, and also prompt us to reach out to everyone who is in need. So I'm very happy that you have been all morally supporting us, also taking small efforts to reach out Indians, especially the affected ones, through Caritas and other organizational channels with your small supports. As the Asian fraternity, Asian Caritas has been doing this wonderfully well and reaching out to Caritas India and also globally. So I would put it in simple terms that let us all keep us always united in love, uh, solidarity with each other, and that is making the difference globally. It doesn't matter how far we are or how distantly we are placed, but we have a heart that is being united and a heart that sees.
Thank
I
you very much.
I wish all of
Thank
you wonderful day ahead, and always requesting further to keep us in your prayers and in your hearts. And I especially appreciate Jean and the wonderful audience this morning for your time and for your patient listening.
Thank you very much, Father Paul. And we are praying for the best for you, for Caritas India, and for your country. Thank you very much. We have, ladies and gentlemen, our Executive Director for Caritas India, Father Paul Munjeli. Thank you again for your time with us. Our Caritas Kindness Station in the Diocese of Butuan is taking shape with our beloved and most respected animal companion. That's the carabaos. Father Gilbert Biliena of the Christ the King Parish in Tungo, Butuan, sought the help of the carabaos to bring the Caritas Kindness Stations to far-flung areas in his parish. Next Friday, we will know the full story with Father Gilbert here at Caritas News on the Go, so don't forget to tune in. Tonight, also during our Alay Kapwa sa Caritas Philippines virtual program, Father Aldrin Domingo of the Diocese of Cabanatuan will also be sharing with us the miracle of the Caritas Kindness Station in his diocese. Caritas News on the Go will be right back.
Because we know how much you wanted to get the right information, we give it to you right here. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Accessible through your YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Caritas News on the go.
Welcome back. This is Caritas News on the Go. Led by the CBCP National Laudato Si program, we successfully concluded the celebration of the 2021 Laudato Si Week. Here to share with us the highlights of the celebration is the National Chairperson of the Global Catholic Climate Movement Pilipinas, Father John Laydon. Good morning, Father John, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Jing. I'm honored to be here.
We are so honored. We have been praying for these to happen for several weeks now, Father, and we are so thankful that you're finally here with us. So we would like to know, how was the celebration of the Laudato Si week last week?
Well, in terms of activities, fantastic. In terms of reach to people, fantastic. It really went very well. But this was a very special week. This was a very special celebration of Laudato Si week. You know, Laudato Si is 6 years old now. And it's been celebrated, from my point of view, it's been celebrated by GCCM, which set up a platform, which Caritas was part of and NASA was part of. But we were basically unofficial. But this year it was official with the setting up of the bishop setting up the National Laudato Si program. And that was a totally different thing. We had access to all the dioceses and and direct access to the bishops. So we also were trying to. And we also had an international dimension also. GCCM International has been working with the Dicastery on Human Development, and they had a big program as well. So our problem this year was, how do you blend the international, the national, and the local? I mean, it was the first time ever that we had to do this, and I thought we did that very well. Sometimes the international would have a program on education in relation to Laudato Si, and we would link that in. Then we'd have a local counterpart on that, and we had some very useful and informative topics throughout the week. And the other thing that I was so happy about also, and I'm sure Pope Francis would be thrilled with this, that it was inter-religious and ecumenical. And the launching was that, because Laudato Si is not just any encyclical, it's about our survival, you know what I mean? And we better get on board with it, or we won't have a future. I mean, that's apocalyptic, and Laudato Si says apocalyptic language is not inappropriate given our situation. No. What's wonderful also is at the end of the week, there was the Dicastery, the Vatican, launched a 7-year program. And the thinking behind this, so for 7 years, we're going to have an intensive propagation and application of what care for our common home is. And there'll be focuses on different kinds of sectors, the health sector, the education sector, the religious. I'm not too sure, I don't have them all on my off by heart yet, but many will, the family. And meaning, I think that Pope Francis, I think, believes that the church should, that the teaching of Laudato Si should be at the heart of the gospel. And it's not at the heart of the gospel. You know, ecology, paminsan, we might hear of it. My professor used to say, you know, you could go around on a Sunday and all the different churches, and you could go around on a Saturday to the synagogues, and I don't know what day you go on for the mosques, and you'd hear wonderful story, you'd hear wonderful preaching about love of God, humanity's love for God, and God's love for humanity, and humanity's love for humanity. But you'll hardly hear a word about humanity's relationship with creation. That's so. All religions have to go through a major change, and I think the rationale, you know, that would explain all the work that's going into propagating Laudato Si. In Laudato Si number 217. He talks about living our vocation to be protectors of God's handiwork. And he says, living our vocation to be protectors of God's handiwork is essential to a life of virtue. It's not optional or secondary, or a secondary aspect of our Christian experience. So there's a lot of work to be done to make this a reality, so that it becomes, when we think of Christian, we'll think of, you know, we think of Christian now, we'll say, oh, that you love one another and you love God. But loving creation, you know, embracing it, being known with the love for God's creation also should be very much at the heart. And that's what that's why we celebrate Laudato Si every year, Laudato Si week. And also we've developed, the church is developing a liturgical season even, which is really what the church is very good at. We're very good at celebrating the incarnation and Christmas. You know, we have Advent as a preparation for that. And then we're very good at celebrating redemption, which is, you know, Holy Week and Good Friday and Easter Sunday, and preparation for that is Lent, and then there's the time of preparation until Pentecost as well. We're good at that, but we celebrate God as God becoming incarnate and God being a savior. We don't have a season where we worship God as a creator, and that's why there is a movement now. It's unofficial still, but I think it will be part of the church's liturgical year from September 1, which is World Day of Prayer for Creation, until internationally until October 4, or the Sunday. Pardon?
Sorry, I would like to ask, because you mentioned also about the CBCP National Laudato Si program opening doors and opportunities for us and making this year's celebration extra special. Does this mean also that we would be institutionalizing within the church the celebration, which you have mentioned about the season of creation and then the International Day for Creation?
It would take more than a bishops' conference to institutionalize it. It'd have to be done at the very top. But perhaps the Philippine bishops will be the one to take the initiative on this when the idea sinks in. So the season of creation finishes on the feast of Saint Francis of Assisi. But actually, our practice in the Philippines, we've extended it to the following Sunday because it's Indigenous Peoples Sunday. And that's so beautiful, really, because Laudato Si, Pope Francis says, Indigenous people, they're not just an extra issue or a group or anything. They're at the heart of all of what this is about. Yeah. So wonderful things happening, Jing. And I thank the Lord. I couldn't believe the breakthroughs that are taking place.
Yes, correct. And the theme of this year's Laudato Si Week celebration is celebrating change. So do you think that there are key changes in the way we are implementing also, for example, our advocacies? We have this deep journey into Laudato Si symposia and trainings. Are these also helping us realize the hopes and dreams of Laudato Si?
Yes, the training that we do is very much geared towards the person who attends. And there's a part of the symposium that I love, where the founder of the symposium says, an important question is what should we do? That's important, but there's a more important question: who am I supposed to be, given that all this is happening? And I think that this symposium and the way we're teaching it, the way we're conducting it, is getting things right. What we have to do is important, but who we are supposed to be is at the heart. And that's basically ecological conversion, which Laudato Si talks about now. And it's happening. Change is very hard to see, but it's happening. And sometimes it goes unnoticed. Like, one of the big issues is convincing people who have money, which includes churches, not to invest their money in fossil fuels. If you're investing your money and making money out of pumping carbon into the atmosphere, that is now becoming obviously very sinful. And it wasn't seen as sinful 10 years ago. But, so the whole divestment issue is good. And we had a wonderful seminar on that. We had somebody from Ireland who shared that the Bishops' Conference in Ireland had declared that they were going to divest all their funds from fossil fuels. And it's the same process is happening also in the Philippines. But, things happen and we don't notice. There was a board meeting of the ExxonMobil, one of the big oil companies, last week, and they had an election of officers, and 2 environmentalists were elected to the board of an oil company. and the oil company were not happy with that. But the shareholders, obviously, there is this idea. We often hear revolutionaries talking about critical mass. To change society, and the church is talking in terms of critical mass, getting enough people who change and are committed, and that there's a process within society where society can radically change, and we need to radically change. So
that's the campaign that we are doing at the moment. It's really a drastic radical change needed, especially in the Philippines, since we are really seeing so many destruction in our environment. And then also what you've mentioned about the divestment campaign that we are having, we are really doing something that's unprecedented, even especially during this time that we have a critical government also. Father, I haven't heard you say your whole Laudato Si message for last week, so I'm giving you now the time to give the Filipino people, from an Irishman, your Laudato Si message.
We know that things can change, and we experience change, and I believe that the Philippines has a special role in saving the world. I really believe that, and the Philippine Church is beginning to play that role. The Philippine Church has been very clear in its pronouncements. Just 2 years ago, it declared an emergency. We are living in a climate emergency. And when an emergency is happening, no matter how important something is that you're doing, you drop it. If your house is on fire, that's an emergency. Even if you're doing the greatest work in the world, you drop that and you take care of the emergency. And I believe that that's what humanity has to do. And it's wonderful that Pope Francis has shown such leadership, and that the Vatican is moving, and that the Philippine bishops are moving, and I'm very hopeful. And it was, and one of the things we do in that symposium, also a deep journey, is that we're supposed to do things. We're supposed to become different, and we're supposed to do things, but also we're supposed to celebrate. And that's what our theme was last week, celebrating change. And thanks be to God, there is change to be celebrated.
Yes, and I think in your lifetime you'll be seeing a lot of changes still that would be happening, especially if we would be continuing the robust support that we are getting now from our partners. And I think, Father, one of the most important things that happened now, and I'm sure that you'll agree, is how all the interfaith groups came together and then did their share in this, not only in the celebration but in the actual care for our common home, right?
Yes. We all have to. All the religious traditions are affected by this and challenged. I mean, if you belong to a religious tradition and you say nothing or do nothing about the breakdown of the planet, then you're of no use. You've missed your vocation. But the thinker that I follow is Thomas Berry, and he thinks of humanity. He says humanity and the nature. Humanity will have to see nature as a sacred community. And he also says, and we need religion for that. The experts in sacredness, dealing with the sacred, are the religious traditions. But he says humanity will begin to see the earth community as a sacred community, or will face disaster in the future. So it's happening, though. It's nice, and it's nice to be part of it. And it's nice to be part of a church that is really taking this seriously. So I'm saying to people, abangan ang susunod, because this launching of the 7-year program, everybody's going to be affected by it. And I say to people, look, all you have to do, God has not left us or abandoned us. God is at work in our world through the Spirit. And all we have to do is to let our consciousness be flooded by the Spirit. Don't worry about what we're supposed to do. We'll know. But the main thing is to make this a central part of our being Christian and being human also.
Thank you very much, Father John, for the beautiful insights that you've provided us, and also the message that you shared with us. Thank you so much also for gracing the program. It's such a delight, and still a happy Laudato Si journey to you. Thank you, Father.
You too, and God bless you. God bless us all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We had Father John Laydon, the national chairperson of the Global Catholic Climate Movement Pilipinas. At least 30 dioceses in the country have reported having tree planting activities in the light of the 500th year celebration of Christianity in the country. Among these is the Archdiocese of Cagayan de Oro. During the Laudato Si week celebration, Archbishop Tony Ledesma, together with the local clergy, blessed the Father Mateo Sanchez Tree Nursery and the 500 Jubilee trees which will be planted in the forest sanctuary established by the Archdiocese last year. The Archdiocese of Cáceres also conducted a tree planting activity within the compound of the Caritas Cáceres Development Center. The event was led by Archbishop Rolando Terona, Caritas Cáceres Executive Director Father Mark Real, and the Archdiocesan Ecology Ministry Head Father Eric Bobis. In addition to a mangrove planting activity was conducted by civil society organizations, the military and the police, and other cause-oriented groups in the shores of Mactan Island, Cebu. Earlier this week, it must be remembered that the Diocese of Butuan relaunched their community pantry in celebration of the Laudato Si month and in anticipation of the season of creation in September. These activities are hoped to be monitored and tracked with the CBCP National Laudato Si program to measure the impact of the various ecological activities conducted within the Philippine Church's centenary. We will be right back. This is still Caritas News on the Go.
Because we know how much you wanted to get the right information, we give it to you right here. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Accessible through your YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Caritas News on the Go. Because we know how much you wanted to get the right information, we give it to you right here. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Accessible through your YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Caritas News on the Go.
Welcome back. You're still watching Caritas News on the Go. We are expecting to finish 130 permanent housing units in Veracat and Duanes under our Typhoon Rolly emergency response. According to Ms. Jeannie Coriano, the humanitarian head of Caritas Philippines, the construction is hoped to be finished before the start of the rainy season. These previously completed housing units are now being occupied by the identified partner families. Aside from shelter, livelihood assistance in the form of cash for work, provision of fishing boats, and farm inputs are part of the intervention, including a number of capacity building activities on psychosocial first aid, volunteer management, and the formation of the community-led monitoring, accountability, evaluation, and learning teams. Caritas Philippines is doing another huge partnership with US-based Filipino-American Voice United to carry out a Live Aid Philippines concert for the benefit of our marginalized communities and families. According to Father Tony Labiao, Caritas Philippines Executive Secretary, the event is hoped to help more Filipino families severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The details of the fundraising event will be revealed during the Memorandum of Agreement signing ceremony later this morning. A dialogue between Caritas Philippines, the Department of Agrarian Reform, and the affected families of a disputed land in Bataan will again be taking place this afternoon virtually. According to the DAR Undersecretary Elmer Distor, the dialogue will help them flesh out issues concerning at least 50 families endangered of being evicted from their homes due to unresolved agrarian reform issues. Caritas Philippines, through our legal officer, Attorney Louis Valandres, is representing the families in the dialogue. According to Bishop Jose Colin Bagaforo, Caritas Philippines National Director, the initiative of the National Caritas to conduct this series of dialogues with key government agencies is one of the ways to first establish relationship with the government, second, resolve amicably long-running concerns, especially of farmers, agrarian reform beneficiaries, and indigenous peoples communities, and third, find better ways to concretely assist and address the development and implementation of programs to alleviate and reduce poverty among the basic sector. Later this evening, again, Attorney Louis Valandres takes the pilot episode of our online legal assistance program at 8 o'clock in the evening. So don't forget to like, follow, and share our Facebook accounts and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Caritas Philippines. This is our episode this week. I am Jean Ray Henderson. Thank you for watching. This is Caritas News on the Go.
Because we know how much you wanted to get the right information, we give it to you right here. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Accessible through your YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter accounts. NASA Caritas Philippines News Updates. Caritas News on the Go.
Ever wondered how you can be part of a global movement to help the most unfortunate Filipino communities? Caritas Philippines invites you to take part in doing Alay Kapwa sa Caritas in 9 different ways. These revitalized Alay Kapwa Stewardship Program will let you support the 9 priority interventions of the Catholic Church starting this year through Caritas Philippines. Be part of our global network of compassion. Show your love, kindness, and generosity by supporting the following stewardship programs. Alay para sa Kabataan. For only 137 pesos a day, send a youth to school and end their family's cycle of poverty. Alay para sa Karunungan at Kasanayan. For 168 pesos a day, professionally train a social action worker from your diocese. Alay para sa Kabuhayan. For 50,000 pesos, share your blessings for a Kabuhayan package for a community of fishermen. Alay para sa Kalusugan. For 100,000 pesos, at least 1,500 farmers will be assured of food for their families. Alay para sa kanlungan. For only 260 pesos per day, give a disaster-stricken family a permanent home. Alay para sa kababaihan. For only 400 pesos a month, empower rural poor women with sustainable social enterprises. Alay para sa kaligtasan sa kalamidad at sakuna. For 150 pesos per day, help a family prepare for disasters and calamities. Alay para sa kalikasan. For 100 pesos, let trees grow, thrive, and create new forests. Alay para sa katarungan at kapayapaan. For 300 pesos a day, help us build post-harvest facilities for our agrarian reform beneficiaries and indigenous peoples' communities. By being part of our networks of compassion, for just 1 year, you will be enabling families to have better access to a better future. So what are you waiting for? Let us do Alay Kapwa sa Caritas.